We're back with more Tapped Out with Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine on the BetQL network.
I like big bucks, and I cannot lie, but the Bucks are struggling right now down in Miami, down by 8 in the second quarter. Bucks were 3-point favorites. No Giannis in this one. We'll keep you updated on the NBA action. If you're interested in the octagon or the boxing ring, you have come to the right place. It is Tapped Out on the BetQL network with Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. Right now, Jared Gordon is in there with Bobby Green. Jared Gordon came in as a sizable underdog. BT and I both told you, put your money on Flash Gordon. He's looking pretty good early on in this fight. Let's put on our matchmaker hats for a little bit, BT, and talk about some upcoming fighters that don't have fights announced because, yeah, there's some good ones coming up. We know we got Nunes and Juliana. We know we got John and Stipe. We know we got Yair versus Volkanovski. We'll talk about all that in just a little while. And as I speak, Jared Gordon gets knocked out. So go ahead and edit that on the podcast if you don't mind, like I never said it. And we'll pretend like I said Jared Gordon's going to get knocked out, which he did. So King Green, Bobby Green, congratulations if you're holding on to that ticket. What about Sugar Sean O'Malley?
I'm very confused by what he dropped him. It literally almost like they headbutted him. This is an interesting one, man. It feels right like he's going to get the title shot next, right? That feels very much where it's headed. So my lean is to say winner of Cejudo versus Aljo. That's going to get Sean O'Malley. If it's not, I'd like to see him versus Sandhagen. I think that's a fun fight, dude. I think that would be an amazing fight.
You said where it's headed. Speaking of, Jake, take the microphone real quick if you could, because you're watching that fight. So it looks like maybe what Bobby Green headbutted that headbutt knockout, no decision. That's what it looks going to happen here.
Yeah, it was not good. They like both went in for a shot at the same time, or at least like a clinch entry, and they just bashed heads right behind the ear. Jared Gordon went limp. Bobby went on top of him, ground and pound, and then
this Jared
Peterson
Gordon
stopped it. So, what do you say?
Interesting.
Yeah, this Jared Gordon. I mean, you want to talk about the bad luck that he's had over the last couple of fights between getting screwed by Paddy Pimblett. Because you said that I was like, wait, did he just headbutt him? And yeah, he just goes in like a ram, dude, and takes out it right to his temple.
The good thing, though, not that anything's good about that, but that's what I'm saying is that they're both guys that'll fight with short term. And so maybe, well, I don't know. I mean, headbutt's serious business, so we'll see. But maybe no contest, they run it back. We'll let you know because depending on who you have your ticket on, you might end up taking it right back to the window and getting your money back. All right, I agree with you when it comes to Sean O'Malley. The best thing to do is probably just sit tight, wait, do your podcast, and then see what happens in the Cejudo fight. If it's Cejudo, that's a big name. If it's Aljo, it's still for the belt. So to me, that's the best case scenario. What about Khamzat? He's a guy that we've been talking about now for a couple of years. And when he came onto the scene, it was, who is this guy? And then a couple of weeks later, it was, this guy's unbeatable. And then a couple of months later, it was, this guy's going to fight for the belt. But here we are now. It's been a couple of years. What's next?
This is a good question, man, because I honestly was kind of excited to see if Pereira would have wanted to see him fight Pereira, but Pereira's going up to 205 to see where that would have gone, like the two boogeymen kind of monsters take on each other. So if we scratch that out, Paulo Costa would be a fun one. I would like to see him versus Paulo. I think that'd be a fun matchup. Other than that, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if Izzy will give him a direct shot right away. I feel like Khamzat does kind of have to prove himself a little bit, but Izzy's one of these guys where like he feels like a cool enough champion where he'll just do it to do it, you know, just because it's big business. And I think that there's not a lot of contenders, so he kind of has to make stuff up and figure out what the creative stuff is. So if Izzy wants it, I'm not opposed to it. If Israel Adesanya would want to take out Khamzat, I think that'd be the way I go. If not, I'm looking at Robert's got his fight coming up with Duplessis, so we'll take that off. Killer Gorilla, I don't know. Does that speak to you if it's at middleweight for him?
Yeah.
But I don't like watching Vettori fight. So I would say Costa would probably be the way I would go if he's not going to get a title shot.
What if Bo wins his fight? What if he wins his fight and then the UFC goes, all right, screw it. They're both superstar potential, but we're just going to put them in the cage together and see what happens. That would be such a banger, too. And it would also be a non-title fight that I think you could main event, right? There'd be enough eyeballs on it where if you put Bo Nickel in there, and I know it's super early and I know it's not going to happen, but hell, it's fun to talk about. Why not that? Bogo's out there, looks impressive. First round finish in his next fight, which is coming up soon. Maybe put him in there with Hamzat. Is that crazy?
I think that'd be a fun thing to do. I just think that Bo's made it known that even though he's, kind of called it out, about taking those guys, I think that he is going to slow roll it so far. So I don't know, man. I think that that's going to be I like your idea. I don't hate it, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
That's like getting a lion and a tiger in a cage together. Like, what's going to happen here? By the way, that contest officially no contest. So take your ticket back. Get your money back on BetMGM. No contest. Bobby Green by headbutt. We'll see what happens ultimately if they decide to run that one back. What about Islam? Islam looked unbeatable against Charles Oliveira. Then Islam looked good, I would say, against Volk. You and I both agree that Volk probably should have got his hand raised at the end of that fight. What do you think's next fight for Islam?
This is an interesting one, too, because it feels like it's going to be the winner of Beneil versus Charles. Like, that feels the way it goes. And obviously, him and Beneil have the pass, so I think that that's an interesting one. Certainly, it's a purist.
Beneil's the favorite in that fight, by the way, against Charles Oliveira. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, no. But, not surprising. Charles Oliveira, we never seem to get a grip on his odds. They always seem like they're all over the place. It's like it's always he's like one of the kings of that. It's like him and Gilbert Burns. Although Gilbert, they were right. I mean, he smoked Jorge Masvidal on the last one, and they were right about that. I don't know, man. Like, I know we're headed probably towards Dustin maybe running it back with Justin Gaethje. They've said that. I mean, Dustin did flirt a little bit with Gilbert Burns this week, but I feel like Dustin and Islam, Dustin's keeps on winning, and I feel like he's never in these title talks. He's had the Conor thing down in the past, but this dude just keeps racking up wins. And is it just because he's lost in his 2 title fights? Is that why nobody looks at him? But because I feel like that would be a fun matchup, him and Islam.
Well, I'm a pea head. Like, I've got this little tiny head, and Dustin's been called a pea head before, once or twice. And in the case of Gilbert Burns, it feels like if he wore a fitted hat, he'd need like an 8 1/3. That guy's got a giant head. In the octagon together, am I crazy, or would Gilbert just eat him alive? I know Dustin's great, but like, if we actually saw that, Gilbert Burns destroys him, right? Gilbert's way bigger than him.
Dustin is very stocky. I would say I don't think it's as lopsided as you think it is. Gilbert also is a guy, he was a 155er, came up to welterweight. Dustin at one point was a featherweight, but he walks around and could make 170 and be a 170 fighter if he wanted to. But I think that, he doesn't have that knockout power. I think the volume just speaks better at lightweight for him. So I don't know. I mean, the thing that he has that is the kryptonite for him is every time somebody beats him, it seems like it's that rear naked choke. So, he's got to be wary of the submission skills of a Gilbert Burns. But I think that's a fun matchup. I mean, 2 guys who just will fight at any point. I don't know if we'll ever get it. They seem both like they're on their own little trajectories right now. But I did like the flirtation this week if it was a possibility.
By the way, if Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard and all those guys, right, Hunter Campbell, if they need matchmakers, like if they want to take a little bit of time off, me and BT got you whenever you need it.
Gotcha,
Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine Sean Levine, doing a little matchmaking here ourselves on the BetQL network. What about Israel Adesanya? Now, keep in mind that he's the champion again, that the guy that he took out in Pereira has moved up a weight class, so it's not going to be him next. And Israel has taken out number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 8 in the division. What's next? Because I can tell you this, nothing really makes sense for Adesanya.
Well, that's why it kind of goes back to my previous point. When you were asking, what does Hamzat do? I'm like, I don't know what.
Just do that. You're right. Just do that.
I feel like Izzy Hamzat is the one.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, and that basically just comes down to it's not so much Hamzat deserves it. It's just like, Izzy, who does he fight? Dracus du Plessis? I feel like Dracus, it's cool, like their little back and forth heat. I just don't think enough people know about it. So like, what's the fight where everybody's gonna be like, wow, that's one of the pay-per-views I'm excited the most about? Hamzat Izzy. It just seems to make too much sense. He's taken out everybody else. Okay, we could say Hamzat, go prove it. I know Izzy's kind of like, hey, go prove it, but he's given some weird guys title shots before. COL Romero's, like he'll just pull stuff out of a hat. So I just feel like that's one of the biggest, most exciting fights you can make right now is him versus Hamzat.
I mean, Sean Strickland's name has come up, which I think is a little bit ridiculous because he has lost 2 out of his last 3 fights. Izzy's just taken out so many guys where if it was Strickland, that would feel a lot like Jared Cannonier, feel a lot like Paulo Costa, feel like Marvin Vettori. When you're talking about when you're talking about Hamzat, okay, all right. Now it's like turn your radio up and make sure that you're by your TV when that fight goes down, because if Hamzat Chimaev is fighting Israel Adesanya, you don't want to miss that one. What are you pumping your fist for? Jimmy Butler hitting threes or something?
Kyle Lowry. Everybody's hitting threes tonight, dude. Duncan Robinson on his birthday. He's hitting threes.
He's still on the
Lowry's
team?
hitting threes. That's right, dude. He's still on the team. This entire game is basically a 3-point contest right now. There's like nothing in the paint right now. It's all just shots from downtown. That's all this is. And I think they probably knew that because that's all the Bucks without Giannis. That's all they're going to do.
All right, so we talk what's next for Dustin and Justin. What about Tom Aspinall? He's going to be back sooner rather than later. It feels like he probably, in my mind, takes on the winner of tonight's main event, maybe that Pavlovich Burns or a Blades fight.
That's that one makes a lot of, I mean, it could take on the winner, could take on the loser. I mean, Curtis Blades, he's certainly we never got to see that fully, so I'd love to see that matchup again. One we didn't get to see, and they kind of suggested, and I wish they would have gone this direction, him versus Tai Tuivasa. I think that would be a fun one. They both were like, let's do it. And, they decided to go with Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa and Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades, when I felt like those guys were they made the perfect match between each other. 2 of the fan favorites. It seemed like it made all the sense in the world. Why not make Tom Aspinall versus Tai Tuivasa?
I guess just to play devil's advocate, your why not is because you could still essentially put Aspinall in a title fight this calendar year. If he comes back healthy, wins a fight or 2, then that's all you need. I mean, the guy has really never lost a fight in the octagon except for, as you mentioned, the Curtis Blades fight. We ended up getting hurt. So if he goes out there and he was to lose to Tai Tuivasa, then what? Right? Then you lose. I mean, Tuivasa's not going to fight for the title again. Then Aspinall has to take the long road again. So to me, that's the only reason why. Not that they're looking for guys at the top necessarily, because they're completely clouded up. And we'll talk about John versus Stipe and some other heavyweight matchups that we've got on the horizon. You mentioned Pereira, who's now moving up a weight class. What do you think he does? Like, fights for the belt right away?
I mean, adding him to 205 is exciting. I mean, Jamal Hill feels like him and Yuri have to fight. That has to be settled. So what does he do next? I mean, that was a vicious knockout that he took. Could he just sit idly by and just say, hey, former champion's going to come up and he'll fight the winner of those 2 guys? I'd be fine with that. I think that, they've done stuff like that before. Jamal hasn't reigned for a while. Yuri hasn't reigned for a while. They're both pretty young guys. So I feel like you kind of just add him, I don't really want to see him versus Ankalaev. Who wants to see Ankalaev fight? All respect, dude. Like, you're boring. Jan Blachowicz. It'd be cool to see him versus Jan Blachowicz. I think that's probably the outside guy I would go with. If you just wanted to welcome him, looking at the rankings right now, Johnny Walker. Like, you don't want to do something
Johnny
like that.
Walker.
Like, that'd be a fun fight.
Johnny Walker's back too. He's won a couple in a row. He's looked good. The problem,
although, do they train together? I think they might train together.
Yeah, that, and on top of that, with Pereira, if you're the UFC, especially moving up a weight class, you want him to win, whether it's for the belt or otherwise, because if he loses, then you're talking about back-to-back losses, and then people are going to say, well, he's lost his last 2 fights. He's only been here for 5 minutes. He's just a kickboxer. So they need him to win. There's a lot of interesting matchups on the horizon, and then there's some that we're making for you right now on Tapped Out. Valentina, what's next? They just run it back with Grasso for her. I assume that makes the most sense. She's definitely earned it.
She deserves it. Yeah, she definitely deserves to go back and take on Alexa Grasso, but she's a fascinating one because I don't think we looked at her like we did with Amanda when she lost to Juliana and saying, that wasn't the best Amanda, very clearly. I think that, Alexa Grasso just made a great adjustment in that fight, and it's not like Valentina was fighting poorly in that fight. Alexa just got her. So, I mean, who's to say Alexa can't fight her better this time around, I don't know. But I definitely think she deserves another shot.
I think the difference, though, what you're talking about is in the case of Amanda, when she lost to Juliana, there was no slippage. Like, Amanda was, if she was a stock, she was going up, 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 and then all of a sudden she loses, and it was like, oh my God, what's going on? Is she not the greatest? Is she not in it anymore? What's going on? In the case of Valentina, the truth is, the last couple of fights, she hasn't looked great. So we can ask the question, is she still in her prime? Is she still up there with the GOAT status? What about Max? What do you think's next for Max? Because he's found himself in this weird spot too, where when we had him on, talk about fighting Volkanovski for a fourth time, what's next for Blessed? Quick.
Think he's got to have Yair, be the biggest Yair fan to get a title shot.
Right.
Although Volk will probably get another one. He said he wants to fight Korean Zombie. I'm down for that. That's fun.
Coming up next, we tap out. You're locked into the BetQL Network.